Senator Audette? Microphone, please. Thank you very much to the Anishinaabe people, finally. Dear friend, Senator Julie Méville-Deschênes, a message for you, but I also rise today in this House to talk to you about a bill that is important. It is for some, and for me, it's everything all at the same time, and I think my colleague explained this very well. It is important, but it makes me fear. But I come from a place where we live in an isolated community, and we can only get anywhere we go by plane or winter roads or skidoo. And when a small initiative can allow us to save one man, one woman, one man, I have to reflect on how I can ensure that that initiative is going to support someone or a family. So for me, this bill is something that goes further than a bill usually does. It's a matter of justice. It's something that can protect people. It can protect children, a family, a community. And every day we realize that this form of violence is often in the shadows. It's hidden. It's invisible. And it is thanks to you that I learned about this because for that I normalized it. I call it a form of harassment. But I also come from a world where it is a holistic approach. We consider all aspects, we consider all parties, and we consider in the context in which we are living, our culture, our ways of doing things. But in my world, in the Innu, we ended up by accepting this type of repetitive behavior, manipulation, humiliation, coercion. It's part of all this. Or why would I speak out against it? That's just the way it is. So thank you for having explained. Thank you to all senators who have explained this in your messages to date. But sometimes it is physical violence, but we don't hear as much about that. We hear more about coercive control. But when I talk about physical, it means it has an impact on your self-esteem, on the way you get up in the morning and say, well, do I deserve to live? Do I deserve everything that's happening to me, or is this just normal? When you're young, and many of you have spoken about this, about your personal experiences. And it was the same thing in my community. You see the person you love the most who is being constantly controlled by someone from outside who changes who has changed my mother's way of acting with her own children and her environment to such an extent that it made us believe that that's how life was. But I knew deep down inside that she was afraid. She was in this cycle of violence, but she knew that it wasn't normal. The community saw it, people saw it. So collectively, we normalized this type of behavior, and yet we knew that she deserved better. And today we continue to believe that she deserves better. We saw it happening, and we felt powerless. But I was young. I didn't know that I had the right to speak out against this behavior. I didn't know. And if I had done so, what would the answer have been? Well, there weren't even real police forces in my communities. It was people in the band council who had authority, and they said, well, you can't intervene in spousal abuse or family violence. So it's even less so with regard to coercive control. It didn't exist in my world. And when I looked at Bill C-332, I said to myself, well, this is an opportunity, imperfect though it might be. The criminal code we're seeking a far-reaching reform of the criminal code, but that's what our society, our democracy is like. It's piecemeal. So words are important for me to name this invisible violence that will protect these men and women and these daughters and granddaughters, that will break this cycle of violence that is insidious. We heard a man, a brother, a colleague, a senator who stood up, who wants to speak out along with us this form of violence that many women and girls experience. And when you go to Innu communities, men are part of the problem, obviously, but they're part of the solution as well. And we want those men to be our warriors, our protectors. We want them to take care of us because they lost these places because of colonialism. And for the National Inquiry on missing and murdered Indigenous women, we see in the report that all governments were called upon to re-examine all acts that had to do with sexual violence and intimate partner violence by taking into account the feminist perspective. I am becoming emotional. I was supposed to leave you a year ago because I received a call that no mother should ever have to receive. My son was on the phone. He had been stabbed. He thought he was in the right person, but we saw that my son was declining and that we said, no, you have to stand up, go and get help, go and see the organizations, but he didn't listen. He was stuck in this relationship. And even then, I did not know the term coercive control, but thanks to friends here, people who are lawyers and experts and feminists, people who have gone through the same thing, they said, this is what you can do as a mother. And they said the same thing to my family. And to have my son on the phone who said to me, I'm going to survive. And today, he is strong, he stands on his own, and he is healing. But it completely overturned our lives. And today, with his daughter, with our granddaughter, we say we're going to learn that word and we're going to change the laws and we're going to denounce this way of doing things. Not just for you, my son, but for all these men and women who did not have the strength or the courage or the ability to change things. Because it's very difficult to be courageous when you're stuck in this cycle of violence. So I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart as a mother that every little step that we can take to save one life or many lives should be taken, and we need to change our mindsets as well, because we need to tell police forces that they can act, because right now there is no one to support us. You know, people should be able to say to others, yes, I see coercive control in your family. But I don't have any kind of legal body in my community, for example. So even if we try to, because there is no legal framework, so it is not always easy between Indigenous people and police forces. We have seen that. There is overpopulation, crowding, imprisonment, where we stand out in all statistical studies, but there should be zero tolerance, no to violence, no to any type of violence. And I'm going to fight to ensure that when we study this bill, that we ensure that we study the weak spots, for example. If you do this, it might have an impact on a large community of women, Indigenous women, but at the same time, we must be sure that we're doing it for the right reasons and that we're going to talk about education and awareness raising, because it needs to be part of a holistic approach. And for myself, as a mother and a grandmother, I want to be part of this change. So I do hope that we're going to effect this change in committee. Thank you.